What's up, boys? So we got a little bit of drama today. Man, imagine that. Controversy runs amok in the Gacha community once again, but don't worry, say his name and he will appear. Gacha Jesus will descend and provide clarity on actually what is really going on right now. So there is a creator by the name of Marco Meatball, to give you a little bit of context, and we have a great tweet by Ryuku Sensei to tweet it out here, which is, so Marco Meatball seems to deactivate his Twitter account. Congratulations, you've won. That is how you win on the internet. You beat Gacha games by uninstalling. You beat Twitter by uninstalling. Unplug from the machine. Go to the gym. Have sex. It is much more fun. He deactivated his Twitter account because of all the hate that he got from Hoyo defenders. Read his video about Wuthering Waves. Guys, this isn't cool. What the hell is wrong with you people? Very interesting. We have some comments linked here by Marco Meatball, who once again is saying, yeah, these people, uninstall. Right? So, Mr. Pokey quote retweeted this, which is, and I want to break this down very specifically. Cyberbullying, just because they like another game more, is pathetic. These people simply have nothing going for them IRL. Yeah, I think this is absolutely true. He then says, that said, don't enter the kitchen if the fire is too hot to handle. Now, this is something that I frequently say, which is don't make controversial content if you can't handle controversy. However, do I think that that saying applies to this scenario? Well, we're going to find out. The video that he deleted, I actually still have access to, and we're going to watch in full. And then he also says, Hoyo shills curlbots aren't a new thing, and this thumbnail will attract them. Now, that's a very interesting question where, is this thumbnail truly derogatory? Was this thumbnail's purpose a means to try to destroy the credibility of other Gacha games? To be honest, I'll be real. I think this thumbnail is pretty damn tame, as well as the title, Wuthering Waves, Gacha Game First, or Game First, Gacha Second. I think this is pretty fucking tame. He never put Wuthering Waves better than this game. Genshin Impact is dead. All he did was put Carlotta's face doing her ult, do Kafka's face doing her ult, and then, you know, Hu Tao making the same face that your mother makes last night when I came on her face. To be completely honest, this is one of the most non-incendiary thumbnails I've ever seen. However, this is obviously reader's interpretation. Personally, I think there's a lot worse thumbnails out there, like, you know, anything on my channel. For me, I would say, hey, Wuthering Waves is better than Genshin Impact. If that makes you sad, kill yourself. You know, like, that doesn't really seem too far off of what I would post, but yeah, the thumbnail doesn't really seem that bad. So let's continue down here with the comments, where Shinya says, victim blaming is wild, man. And Mr. Bogey says, read the first sentence. The thing with this is that cyberbullying, just because they look at other games, is more pathetic. These people simply have nothing to learn from IRL. Once again, going after the people who suck, right? Then he says, but, that said, maybe don't enter the kitchen if that fire's too hot to handle. Hoyo shills curlbots aren't a new thing, and this thumbnail will attract them. So right here, it's kind of saying, well, I'm helping them out. I'm not victim blaming. And that would essentially be like this. You know, anybody who shit talks Death Note is honestly just being immature and dumb. But as we all know, anybody who likes Death Note should kill themselves because they're fat, ugly losers, right? So the thing is, and this has been happening a lot with Mr. Pokey, is he's been telling a lot of half-truths. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes from, where when you read his sentences, you're like, yeah, that's true, but they usually don't encapsulate the full story. Just the same thing with this tweet, where it has a half-truth up top and then a confusing statement, confusing rhetoric on the bottom, right? Which happens quite a lot. Maybe it's because English isn't his first language. Who knows? So Ryuku Sensei continues to follow up by saying, sorry, Pokey, but there was nothing wrong with that thumbnail. All he did was include a picture of Hu Tao, and he said nothing negative about Genshin. This reads as blaming the victim, not cool. The thumbnail is insinuating Woo-wah greater than HSR in Genshin. I really don't think that it's saying that. I really don't read it as like an over-inflammatory thumbnail. That's just not my opinion. It could be yours, and that's fine. Yeah, I just don't think it reads that way. There's no words indicating that. There's no symbols saying that. And I'll be real, if you were to take this thumbnail and just have Carlotta and Kafka, it just reads as, these are two Gacha games. Is it because Hu Tao's making a silly face that it's being incendiary towards Genshin Impact? No, I don't really think so. However, once again, this obviously goes down to your interpretation. Mods, run a poll. I'm actually curious, how many of y'all think this thumbnail is intentionally derogatory towards Honkai Star Rail and Genshin versus just a goofy thumbnail? I think the title is completely innocent. I think it's completely fine. However, the contents of the video might prove otherwise, which is why we're going to watch this immediately after. This is not victim blaming. It's pointing out why there are people throwing hate at him. People who want a war is just going to click the vid and go to war without watching the vid itself, even if you didn't say a single word about Genshin. I think that if the space is so sensitive, so pussy-like, that this innocent of a thumbnail gets you in that much shit, I think it's pathetic. He himself said it was spicy. Yeah, and I think that's a position that he was bullied into. I want to remind you guys that Valkyrie apologized to the African-American community for saying no cap on a stack for real, because that is quote-unquote African-American vernacular, and stop stealing and appropriating our culture. A lot of people say things a lot of times they don't mean because they were bullied into that position. That's a very real thing. Just as the same way where content creators in the Genshin Impact space often apologize for not taking people's ships to heart or taking people's canon sexuality to serious enough. A lot of people say things that are just wrong. I would like to weigh in. I would like to watch this video, and let's truly find out what the truth of this matter is. Is Marco Meatball a rage baiter with this? I mean, good lord, guys, if we can't even post this without ruffling some feathers, Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail fans need to go ahead and check their diapers, okay, because that's just fucking sad. I really want to watch this, so let's get into it, and let's judge the video by its contents rather than its forefront, which I believe, well, being completely honest, 90% of the viewership comes from the thumbnail and title, and I think this thumbnail is completely fine. I think this title is completely fine. So let's see what the last 10% is. Let's find out.
Gacha games are seemingly a dime a dozen these days, with every iteration of the open world formula being peddled around by content creators and gamers alike as the next Genshin killer. This certainly does a few things to harm the incoming games. One, being compared to one of the most monumentally successful games of its type in the West, an impossible and basically worthless comparison in most cases. And two, this continues to fuel the flame of tribalism and the idea that if you play one game, you cannot be curious or interested in another of its kind, or so.
This is crazy because the contents of this video goes exactly against the narrative of which was presented in the tweets. This is 1,000,000% saying, hey guys, let's all come down, play whatever gacha game you like. Very interesting.
The internet would have you think is the case. Kuro Games launched 1.0 in the middle of 2024, closely on the heels of its CBT2 beta test, which ultimately fell pretty flat. A launch of any new game is an incredibly delicate process, but the launch of a gacha game, where audiences tend to be extremely harsh and deeply entrenched in preconceived notions and opinions, is a near deadly one. Plenty of games have come out since Genshin's rise to fame that have been quickly snuffed out and altogether forgotten. That the risk involved on having a bad launch can be nearly catastrophic for a company if it's too similar to the king of the anime gacha space. Well, I played the personally highly anticipated launch of Wuthering Waves for myself, and ultimately landed on the idea that it was a good game that had enormous potential, but felt disappointing in its offerings. When it came to story and music especially.
I think anybody who was disappointed with the 1.0 quest is entirely justified in their point. I absolutely fucking agree that the launch really fell short for delivering a consistent narrative, and I still say to this day they need to retroactively fix that shit because it's bad.
Its ecosystem, and especially the combat, has never left me with a sour feeling. And in fact, I have quite enjoyed all of these features quite a bit ever since the original 1.0 release, and have played it consistently over the last 7 months. The music overall felt all over the place and with no particular sense of direction, and was a far cry from the melodically driven and powerful pieces of Kuro Games' first offering, Punishing Grey Raven, a game with music I enjoyed so much that I actually discovered a love for EDM that I didn't even know I had. 1.0 felt unfinished, rushed, and generic, with its—
Nah, that's cap. Besides the story, everything in 1.0 felt incredibly well. I think people who said the word rushed were people who were enjoying the game so much they ran out of content too quickly and said, oh man, they should have pumped out more. Case in point, MTash had that exact take. And we all know 1.0 felt great, but the story fell a little bit short. But I want to give the guy credit to his own opinion. However, I do think his opinion is fucking wrong.
Somewhat muted.
And I would love to have a conversation with this guy and see how he would defend how it felt rushed. Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Colors, vast open spaces with not much to actually see.
However, as a music guy, I can totally understand how he would feel incredibly let down by 1.0, because the music of 1.0 sucked ass. Yeah, the music of 2.0 has been phenomenal. But yeah, Wuthering Waves' music was so boring to me that I didn't even want to log in because the idle music drove me nuts.
That didn't feel kind of bland and samey, and music that ultimately wasn't bad, was just incredibly forgettable. Beyond these complaints, the gacha system, always a sticking point in these types of games, followed the tried and true formula of its rival in the space, offering up the 50-50 for characters instead of its previous PGR system of just needing to reach the hard cap of however many pulls it is, which felt more player-friendly and altogether more generous.
Sure.
That said, the weapon banner was guaranteed at 80 pulls max, and Kuro has continued its player-forward model of making it fairly easy to accrue the necessary in-game currency in order to properly pull for characters as a free-to-play player. One I am not, but based on my conversations with free-to-play players, most have been pleased with their ability to play the game and receive characters they want even when losing the 50-50. I know it's—
Yo, guys, what about y'all? Is that true? How have y'all felt about your ability to garner enough asterite to get the characters that you want in this game? How often are you skipping characters? Really good? Super good? Yes, true. Only so far? Free to play is easy, decent enough. Okay, great. Glad to see that.
It's unrealistic and not financially lucrative for these types of games, but having the 50-50 player-unfriendly system go away while retaining the gacha component is something I hope to see as these games continue to dominate the market with their popularity. It's unlikely, but a man can dream. What was really surprising, though, came in subsequent patches that occurred pretty rapidly. Sure, yes, there was some filler in the 1.0 patches, but 1.1 brought with it Mount Firmament, new characters with Jinshi and Chongli, and a whole new area with its own system and mechanics to unravel and discover. This was a welcome surprise for many of us who were committed to supporting and playing Wuthering Waves.
Yeah, Mount Firmament was great.
And had a really lovely overarching
was not a pain to traverse at all. I'm glad it didn't have that
goofy-ass
freeze mechanic with the Dragon Spine. That shit sucked ass.
But it also brought real highs.
Though I will admit, I still love Dragon Spine for its time, but any type of temperature mechanic, I always fucking hate.
And lows for what quickly became a fan.
Same thing with drowning. Oh, it's so annoying.
And the challenges of being a Sentinel's Resonator. And then finally, later on in the 1.0 patches, we went to the Black Shores. Another, in my opinion, colossal—
or as R34 artists call it, the getting blacked shores.
Victory for the continued vision of what Wuthering Waves was wanting to become. New, terrific, compelling characters, improvements to dialogue, character interaction, and the general quality of life became very high. It felt that Kuro Games was actively listening to player feedback and taking it seriously, rather than just trying to make as much money as possible. Admittedly, there was still, I don't know, a bit of a wow factor that was missing. Sure, the worlds were visually stunning, and there were some incredible set pieces, but it still didn't have the thing that makes you want to come back day after day to live in and experience the world, at least generally speaking, and certainly for myself. Music as well was really—
I think that's completely fair. I, too, was struggling to find what hook did I have to want to get back into the game and log in every day. However, I also believe that I'm someone who has broken the cycle of daily logins. Yeah, those are miserable to have to fucking deal with. I really fucking don't like them. However, I mean, to some people they like them, and it is what it is, and incentivize them to get on, so it works. But for me, I'd rather just go to the gym and get on whenever the new update drops.
Really starting to turn a corner and becoming less and less meandering without any specific intention. This patch also focused a lot on sound quality that was reminiscent of Nier, which if you played those games, you can understand why that is a compliment of very high praise.
Yeah, Nier is fucking amazing.
Also felt to me like the beginning of a time period where it really felt like the game was trying to deviate from the many parallels to the big bad Genshin Impact.
They made Fontaine 2.0, brother. Yeah, I don't know about that. I feel like, it's pretty similar to Watertown, you know what I'm saying?
And it felt like while it may have taken some inspiration or direct inspiration from it, directly or indirectly, there was a vision and a desire to tell its own story. Sure, yes, that tribalism I mentioned earlier will probably
Fontaine,
never go away,
Mamma Mia, exactly.
And is incredibly annoying and stupid and redundant, and the infighting—
And I want to make this perfectly clear. I think Fontaine, all things considered, is the peak of Genshin Impact. Absolutely. The story of Fontaine, I thought it was amazing. Farina's quest, the Archon, was incredible. Nuvulet's shit was fucking amazing. The shit with the wolf cut Jotaro boy was lame. The prison fucking sucked. But like 4.0, 4.1 was like really fucking strong. Do I think Wuthering Waves' narrative trumped Farina's character building? Honestly, no, I don't think so. I think Farina is one of the strongest characters in all of gacha gaming. However, every other aspect was completely obliterated by Wuthering Waves. It wasn't even fucking close. And the story was still very good for WoW. It was very good, very enjoyable, very quick for 3 acts to be trumped like that. That was great. I do think that 2.0 Wuthering Waves, and I would love for anybody to correct me here. I do think, and we're about to give it a pretty hard glazing, I do think it is the best update of any gacha game ever made. Yeah, to have that much change in one patch, 2.0 actually felt like a different game comparatively to 1.0. I don't know if anybody else thinks that there was a better update, but I would struggle to even think of that. I would say 2.0 is one of the best updates ever, as well as 1.4 for Zenless Zone Zero as well. If anybody thinks of any counterpoints, let me know, but like, with how much it transformed, it was like, god damn, it's night and day now, isn't it?
Will continue for the foreseeable future, especially with an at times disgruntled fan base who feels like they're not being heard, but at least Wuthering Waves was starting to feel like a structured game with an idea of what it wanted to be. That takes us to today, and I have to say, the ridiculously successful Wuthering Waves 2.0 update, and ultimately the point of this video. So has Wuthering Waves managed to actually make waves? Yes, astonishingly. For the first time, the game truly feels like it has its own identity, free of the confines of previous comparisons to the other game in the market of this level. Has Wuthering Waves music improved its music? When I tell you it's basically a miracle, I cannot understate enough how good the music in this update actually is. Everywhere you turn, there is a new surprise to witness and hear. Whether it's a side quest you could accidentally miss by not veering off the road most traveled, or stumbling on ancient ruins. The game has music in spades, not only that fits the narrative, but also elevates the narrative to the point that repeat listening in your car would also be delightful. It moves beyond
Oh, bro, I play the carnival song while I go to the gym, and I play the carnival song while I'm lifting. Now, that being said, I would like to say, Carnival is probably in my top 20 gacha songs of all time, and I'm about to make people real upset. I think Malvika's trailer song is better. Yeah, Malvika's trailer song is in my top 10. That being said, Ellen Jo's trailer song is in my top 5. Fucking amazing. I think my number 1 gacha song of all time is probably Samur Dratha, Don Hung Il's theme song. I would love to make that sometime. Yeah, Sparkle's theme song is also in my top 5 as well. Burnus is probably in top 20, guys. I'll be real, that song's fucking annoying.
The game. When we take a soundtrack and move away from the game with it, that's when a soundtrack is truly victorious, and that would ultimately be the best way for me to describe the soundtrack. Victorious. A victory. 4 tracks in particular really stand out to me. The track Within the Church of the Order of the Deep, welcoming us with this sound of
Bro has not listened to PGR? Oh, sorry guys, I meant gacha games that people give a fuck about. My bad, I should have addressed that.
Ground where every step you take is sacred, where we're led to believe that the majesty of the Sentinel is with us at every corner. Sharp, incredible horns announcing our arrival with stunning 4-part harmonies in the voices that is reminiscent of the
Devil May Cry Club might help though.
You might literally hear in a Catholic church today.
Don't disrespect PGR tech. I'll kick PGR in the nuts and they'll smile at me and like it. What's PGR gonna do? Cry? Jesus. Who cares? It's a video game. Relax, bro. PGR is a good game, but it's not anywhere near the big 5. It's just not.
Construct, the closest track I've heard to Kuro's sister game, Punishing Grey Raven, with frenetic rhythms, terrific womp womps, and a fusion of classical and baroque that is a rare delight to hear mixed in with electronic music while also featuring string quartet and harpsichord. The opening to the vast openness of the Raguna countryside.
This shit was
track
amazing.
With rights bought by Kuro Games.
This was
a
genuine
that sounds more
chills
befitting of
moment.
a Witcher 3 intro or Freerin than any other game I've played within the gacha space that invites us into exploration and wonder with gentle vocals that provide us with curiosity and even warm our hearts to the warm hues of green and brown we experience in the countryside. The Lorelei Ball.
Are we noticing that this video is one of the most tame comparison videos I've ever seen in my adult life? The fact that people got upset by this shit is actually insane. We want to keep going, then I want to weigh in on the original tweet.
Boss fight, with echoes and references to Mozart's The Magic Flute, a reimagining of a timeless song that will have cultural implications far deeper than one can even begin to consider, exposing millions of people to the power of opera as a musical medium, and that elicited this outrageous reaction out of me, a former professional opera singer. Wow, that's cool. Oh my god! Oh my god! No fucking way! Holy shit! Oh my god! They referenced Queen of the Night! And lastly, the menacing Elden Ring style
Fucking nerd.
FromSoft approach to the Dirge Dragon, whose size alone makes it a terrifying foe, story reasons not mentioned for the spoilers. Harpsichord and strong male choir dominate this track as we step into a dark Baroque horrorscape of terror and destruction. These tracks are only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the variety on display here. Day and night tracks, a world quest with dynamic music featuring a truly modern twist on Baroque music. It shifts into a combat version incredibly smoothly and then resets back. Dynamic music. The music on display is a masterclass in guiding players emotionally in a direction and letting them feel whatever the intended purpose or setting of an area may have been during the game design creation process. It's a huge win. If 1.0 was disappointing, then 2.0 is a complete reversal and a total triumph musically. And I cannot help but recommend it to you for the music alone. More than anything, this game feels like a game first and a gacha game second. Oftentimes in this style of game, there can be a sense that the purpose of doing things around the world is ultimately to get you to keep going, to keep opening those gacha tabs, and spend those in-game currencies, or better yet, swipe your credit card. But in the case of WUWA 2.0, it doesn't feel this way in the slightest. Sure, it's there, but it feels like this game wants to be a Witcher, or a Red Dead, but in anime format. It wants you to explore its world, see what it has to discover, and in a way, it lends itself to an MMORPG experience, kind of.
Yeah, the exploration experience I had with WUWA 2.0 was the exact opposite of what I had with Fontaine. The moment I could go underwater in Fontaine, I was like, oh, this is neat, for about 30 minutes, and I said, yeah, I don't give a fuck. When I got to bust out the gliders, that shit was so dope. Guys, we might take a whole stream today and just go explore the whole world. Yeah, Fontaine's bubble diaper shit was also cringe as fuck.
Dissimilar to the wonderment and curiosity that a game like Guild Wars 2 can provide, where the world is yours to find and uncover and who knows what you might see. In fighting between enemy factions? Sure. Old ruins that harbor a dark secret? You got that. A flying minigame where you're actually high as a kite and suddenly you're flying with a boss from earlier in the game? Why not? There's spectacle everywhere.
I didn't do that!
And the landscape is aching to be discovered. Flight was also something that was recently introduced as sort of a gliding mechanic, and it is an incredible showcase of Kuro Games wanting to make something unique and its own. Traversal has always been something really important to these devs, and clearly this is the ultimate form of that.
The most important thing.
I wonder what else they have in store for us for future expansions. Flying is the pinnacle way to get from point A to point B, and the more you explore the regions, the more you're rewarded with stamina that allows you to fly further and longer.
It's great because the flying is so fucking good that I don't use waypoints. And that's so nice because waypoints shrink the world so much. Flying does as well, but not nearly to the same degree as waypoints. So yeah, very welcome update.
Allowing you even more time to bask in the majesty of this incredibly inviting and well-designed world. As I mentioned, the world is layered in such a way that the mind can't help but want to see what's under the clouds or over the horizon. There is so much to see and explore and come across naturally, but if you want, Kuro Games has also made the process easier by giving you easy ways to proceed right to where you want to go, saving you time and allowing you to get what you want to get done quickly and efficiently if you don't have a lot of time on your hands. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this story, but it's also really good. I gotta say, I am so tired of every gacha game having these convoluted phrases or terms that I have to remember, and then having a character repeat themselves 30 times or rehash what we just experienced, or go on a 40-minute long monologue about stuff that is so in the weeds that you'd need a PhD just to understand it. In the case of 2.0 story, it's pretty on the nose. There are some pacing issues, mostly in some NPC interactions at the beginning as the world building starts, and
that's why whenever I see an NPC, I just press the skip button, man, I'm good.
Especially in some exchanges with adjacent characters that could be shorter in the back half of Act 2. But overall, I was locked in for the full 10 hours I spent with the 2.0 story. I found it intriguing, maybe a bit predictable, but overall, when it ended for this update, I didn't want it to end. That's personally how I know it's good, per my standards. The companion quest with Carlotta, on the other hand, was by far the longest of the companion story quests we've had, and while I felt the beginning 30 minutes were way too much back and forth to areas and conversations with people that you kind of don't really know or care about, it was actually a really satisfying conclusion that felt we really had arrived and learned more about her. With some ever so slightly tighter scenes, I think we would have had ourselves a near perfect story experience. In total, I would say the story experience landed around an 8.5 out of 10. If we combine the main story, Carlotta's...
Yeah, I think what Wuthering Waves needs to do is a plan that I've had for a while, which is, and I was recommending Honkai Star Rail do this as well, is that when you walk into a labyrinth or a new area, rather than doing a static NPC conversation, here's what we got to do, guys. Just have the characters following behind you saying that out loud and have the rover and the character just talking while we're moving, that's what I would do personally. And I think that works just great, to be honest. That gets interrupted by combat, though. Okay. And then that'll happen. Sure. Then what you could also do is just have them walking, have the ability to walk. Combat can't be engaged, and just be able to walk around the ruins while that conversation is happening, just to kind of give the ADD players something to do while they're just sitting there reading. You can still walk around and listen, but yeah, that's what I would do.
The story and some of the world quests. This is another point I should make, is that everything that happens after the main story in the world and Carlotta quest just feel naturally good because they feel like a continuation of the 2.0 story. So these world quests or companion quests, which oftentimes could feel like filler a lot of the time, actually fill some really nice gaps for characters' motivations. And they drip feed just a bit more about the world to satiate while we wait for the continuation of story events, which I expect to be highly compelling. Wuthering Waves is in a phenomenal spot right now, deriving quality game-first content and providing challenge in combat, though it would be nice to have a difficulty slider or up the difficulty a bit for story bosses, as they are entirely too easy. I think this is a solid game and a genuinely good time. The course correction in 7 months since 1.0 is monumental and should be praised, and praised loudly. And I can't help but say that I feel that if you're not into gacha games, which I doubt you're watching this video, or have been on the fence on trying Wuthering Waves, now is absolutely the time. This is the kind of turnaround we saw with Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn, Cyberpunk 2077, or No Man's Sky. It may never land at a true AAA experience, or whatever that means for you, but I think if you go in with a level head with gacha aspects, or don't interact with them at all, you'll come away with a game that respects your time, engages you, and might even move you. It's very good. Wuthering Waves has done the seemingly impossible, and I cannot recommend it enough to you or anyone who might be interested in getting stuck into a beautiful world with delightful characters without being too bright or peppy. If you're looking for a new game, this very well could be the one for you. And while nothing is perfect, I do believe they really knocked it out of the park with this one, and they just need to keep that up for the remainder of the time that they make this game. Take care.
So I think this is one of the best reviews ever made in the history of gacha gaming. Yep, and now I want to fully weigh in on Marco Meatball's thoughts here. Yeah, I think that was one of the best, if not the best review of a game or a version of a game that I've ever seen. And kudos to Marco for making something that fantastic. Wow. What a great way to describe his enjoyment of a wonderful update that he enjoyed. So here's what I would like to say. I think for this, and I'm gonna go on a limb here. I don't think Mr. Pokey watched that video. I don't. Yeah, I don't think he watched that video. I'm getting the vibe he didn't watch it. Yeah, that was the least offensive, least comparison video I've ever seen. It's the same as saying Wuthering Waves has innovated the gacha space, just like Path of Exile 2 innovated the ARPG space. Now, does them saying that give you the right to get upset because, but I like Genshin Impact, but I like Honkai Star Rail? No. If that's going to upset you, that non-incendiary phrase, if that's going to upset you, you need to get a fucking life, brother. I think what Mr. Pokey said is correct, but not about this situation. I don't. Once again, the thing is that this is something that I would say. Everybody knows this reads like a Tectone tweet, doesn't it? This absolutely reads like a Tectone tweet. It does. The problem is that contextually, it's completely missed the mark. And it's a misfire. It borderline reads as a misclick because the thumbnail is not incendiary. The video is purely complimentative. This could be used to someone like an Itoma video or a Saint Tontas video or shit, even Mr. Pokey himself. I can see him saying this about his reaction when he got upset during the 5.3 main story quest. However, this is not the time and place to be saying that this was an incendiary react, this was a toxic thumbnail. It's just simply not the case. I actually do genuinely feel bad that Marco caught any negativity for this thumbnail video because it's completely unwarranted. I understand why Shinya and Ryuku went out here and said that this is victim blaming because it can be perceived that way if you are of the opinion that this thumbnail is non-incendiary, of which I think is the correct take. I genuinely do. I do agree with what he's saying, but I just don't think Mr. Pokey watched the video. And I think that if he did watch the video, he'd understand how truly tragic that this whole issue is, and I would stand by this. This is not a Marco issue. This is a, once again, gacha communities being far too soft, far too defensive over shit that was never trying to be a fight to begin with. That's my take. I think this once again chalk this up to snowflakes being snowflakes. If you disagree, please leave a comment. I just think there's some confusion. I think people went in a little bit half-cooked and weren't fully aware of what they were weighing in on. That's my opinion. You're free to have your own, but chat, let me know what you think. Type 1 if you think that I'm pretty spot on. Type 2 if you think I'm missing something. Either way, it's completely fine. But yeah, I just wanted to get informed to see what's going on because people are kind of freaking out over this. And yeah, if it's controversial, that's absolutely okay. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. And hopefully that provides some clarity on the real issue of what happened with Marco and why the gacha space was in a little bit of a disagreement, a little bit of a tangent. Anyways, see you all next time. Like, comment, subscribe, and go check out Marco Meatball's video. Great guy, great channel. And Marco, if you ever want to talk, come on the Gacha Cast. I would love to talk at any time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.